This was a scary, wild, mountainous area that everyone avoided going to. But after the kids insisted, their father got ready for the trip. After climbing hundreds of feet up the mountain, a sudden storm hit. It started pouring heavily. Reluctantly, they had to rush back down quickly. In the hurry, they forgot who was with them and who wasn't. Later, they found out their little boy was missing. They kept waiting for him to come back. 1 hour turned into 2, 2 into 3, hours turned into days, but he never returned. This happened during the scorching summers in Utah, USA. It's midday, and these hills rise up to around 10,000 feet. Grayson Jr. is out camping with his brothers. He was super excited. He really loves camping, hiking, and fishing. His dad, Kinnan, is really proud of his son. Experiences like this don't come around often. So for his dad, it was important that all 3 of his sons could take part. Before they came, his wife had told him not to take the boys since they were young. She was worried about taking their son but didn't say no outright. His dad promised. They were keeping a close watch on him. The boy also thought, "I'm grown up now, not a little kid." It was time to pack up and move on. As soon as the group started the 5-hour descent from the mountain, the sky suddenly turned dark. The winds began to howl. His father's main concern was to get everyone safely down the mountain. The weather there could turn deadly in an instant. The horses were tired on the rough paths. They had to stop, even though they didn't want to. The horses' reins had come loose. They needed a few strong guys to tighten them again. Grayson and 3 other boys moved ahead, but soon disappeared from sight. The little boy couldn't keep up and took a wrong turn. They found out Grayson was missing as soon as they reached the parking lot. His dad was the last one to come out and was at spot number 14. He immediately realized someone was missing. In a flash, he understood it was his little son, Grayson. Everyone was asking where he was. In this terrible storm, his little boy had gotten lost somewhere in the huge forest spreading over millions of acres. He was deeply scared for his son's safety and well-being. He knew right away this was a matter of life and death. The question had become urgent. There were only 3 hours left until darkness, and the boy was in danger. There were deadly cliffs and savage predators lurking around. But their biggest worry was the freezing cold night. Hypothermia was a real threat. In such conditions, if anything happened, they'd be completely alone, far from any help. Father nervously turned and headed towards the back path. The howling wind muffled any screams. Still, Father could turn back at any time, but he had to close the gap between father and son. 2 hours had passed since he disappeared. So far, no sign of him anywhere. The last time Grayson was seen was coming down from the mountain in the vast forest. As evening fell, his fear grew. An hour later, the boy realized he was lost. He shouted and tried to see if anyone could hear him. When there was no response, his fear only got worse. To move faster on the rough paths, Grayson decided to leave his bag behind. The weight was digging into his shoulders. Leaving the bag, he threw away the one thing that might have kept him alive on a freezing night, his sleeping bag. He kept going for hours, but he couldn't find a way out or the end of the forest. Grayson was lost in the New Year's forest, about 2 meters above sea level. As the storm picked up, the temperature dropped a lot. His father knew his son could freeze to death in the cold. Still, they hoped he would use a sleeping bag and stay protected from the cold all night. That's what they were counting on. But Grayson didn't have a sleeping bag because he'd thrown his away. Soaking wet, he made a makeshift shelter, but he was still soaked. He hadn't lost hope yet. Thought this might help a little. He couldn't sleep because it was so cold. Hypothermia was stealing his time away. He prayed to be found and for morning to come. He was really sad. When the cold hit hard, for a moment, he felt like he wouldn't make it through the night and might never see his family again. Meanwhile, down the mountain, his mom was coming, and his desperate husband was rushing to meet her. They just broke down and cried. When he finally spoke, he said to his wife, "I can't face you. I've lost our son." You could see his soul in his eyes. She didn't blame him, because she knew well that after the accident, his spirit was completely shattered. As a parent, it was always really important for him to be there for his kids, to help them with their problems, to support them through tough and lonely times. He had never felt so hopeless and scared in his life. It felt like he had failed his son and his family. In the middle of the storm, they feared their son wouldn't make it through the night. They were doing everything they could, physically, mentally, and emotionally. But that wasn't enough. The evidence showed he wasn't alive. Everything pointed to the fact that Grayson was no longer in this world. This wasn't a rescue mission anymore. It had turned into a search for a dead body. It had been a full 18 hours since he went missing. Miraculously, Grayson, lost in the forest, was still alive by morning. He was trying to spend another night on the mountain by himself. He tore his range towel and started tying pieces to the trees. He hoped someone would see the markers and follow them, maybe even find him. Meanwhile, the storm had finally died down. A special search helicopter took off to look for the missing people. As they were searching, everyone could hear the sound of the helicopter. They were hoping for news every moment. That's what everyone was thinking. It seemed like news was coming. They found them. The radio announced they had found a yellow plastic strip. Then it turned out it wasn't a plastic strip, but Grayson's backpack. Everyone was really happy when they found the backpack. They thought it was good news. Grayson's mom ran to the rescue team and asked, "Is this good news?" But it was just Grayson's backpack. He didn't have it. They needed to know if the sleeping bag was in the pack, because all night his father kept thinking he'd use it. They were told over the radio, everything was safely inside. His father completely broke down and fell to the ground, because in his mind, spending the night without that sleeping bag was impossible. At that moment, no one really thought he might have made it through the night. It had turned from a mission to save a life into a mission to find a dead body, and his family barely had the strength to be part of it. He wasn't there. After searching for 20 hours, the father had started to believe his son didn't survive. He was completely convinced. Feeling like a complete failure as a parent is a terrible feeling. A few hours later, suddenly a message came over the radio. They actually had news about his daughter. He wondered, could he still be alive? There was also a fear that it might be news of his death. Finally, the radio crackled again. Grayson is alive. Hearing this, the father was so overwhelmed with joy that he collapsed to the ground. Grayson had been found by two shepherds in a nearby field. They asked, "Are you Grayson?" The boy was really happy. Despite all the hardships, Grayson made it through the freezing night safe and sound. He didn't think a person's mind and heart were built to handle such extreme ups and downs. No one could believe they had just come down from the mountain. It felt like they had swum all the way. When the boy got into the ambulance, Grayson smiled and said, "Happy Father's Day, Dad." Finally, here's a question for you. How old was Grayson? No need to rewind the video. If you don't know, just comment nope.